Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, I have Devin Daly. He's the founder of Spincar, and today we're going to talk about how their technology and marketing solutions are perfectly aligned for digital retailing. Devin, welcome to the show.
Brian, glad to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to chatting today.
You know, when we see all the changes that are going on in automotive retail, there are new companies popping up all the time offering widgets, solutions, or new strategies to help dealers sell more cars. And I've been very impressed with your company's growth and strategy over the years. It's long overdue that you're on the show. You're no newcomer to automotive. So for people who are not familiar with Spincar, give us a little thumbnail. How long have you been in business? What industries do you serve?
Yep, absolutely. So we've been in business for about 5 years. We actually initially were focused on the retail sector. So we used to work with big fashion companies, Louis Vuitton, Warby Parker, Converse, et cetera, and provided 360 imaging. We pivoted into automotive in about 2014, rebranded the company Spincar, and we're currently fully focused on auto. We do some business in the RV, marine, power sports space, but the vast majority is direct with franchise car dealerships.
Great. And for dealers who are not familiar with the visualization tools that Spincar has, you don't have to go far. If you go to Carvana, their VDP or their vehicle detail page designs are very clean. They have a clear call to action, and the car is the star. They use their own 360 technology. Devin, if we've learned anything from disruptors, whether it is Amazon, whether it is Starbucks, whether it is Uber, or whether it is Carvana, success leaves trails that we can follow. Why do you think Carvana chose a 360 technology to give consumers the full flexibility of looking at the car that they're trying to sell?
Yeah, great question, Brian. Yeah, and I think, it starts by thinking about how important visualization and merchandising is, right? So when you think about what causes somebody to convert on a website, and most of the listeners are probably in the auto space, so I would ask that you think about the last time that you bought a handbag or a pair of shoes or a wristwatch. I can almost guarantee that the vast majority of the time that you spent shopping for that product was spent with the images, the visualization. It's that creates that emotional connection and causes you to decide to convert and purchase. And so when we look at what percentage of dealer website interactions happen within the photo area, it's something like 82% of vehicle detail pages interactions happen with that visualization and merchandising. So it's critical that we focus on creating a more immersive and engaging display of a vehicle.
You know, Devin, it's so funny. We are selling vehicles as new vehicles now as low as, 16, 18,000 up to vehicles over 100,000. And we have stock photos that are one-dimensional, almost like a black and white film, yet a Warby Parker who's selling $100 pair of glasses, or someone who's selling, an accessory, a handbag accessory, gives the ability to see that product in all angles. Why do you think dealers have not made the car the star on the VDP and have really just, well, if you look at the designs, make the price the most important thing about the car?
Yeah, great question. And yeah, candidly, when we came into the space, we found that very surprising, right? To your point, we used to work with Warby Parker, for example, and they sell $99 sunglasses, and they have massive 20 megapixel photos that you could blow up on a highway billboard. Yet we work with a Porsche store selling $70,000 vehicles, and they've got these teeny tiny 240 by 380 photographs. In terms of why a dealer hasn't adopted these modern merchandising techniques, I just think that the tools weren't available to do it at scale on the dealership's lot. And, I think for the first time, we're offering dealers the ability to deliver the experience that today's consumer has really come to expect, thanks to what the Warby Parkers of the world have been doing for a decade now.
And before we go into the technology and the package and the implementation, let's be very clear. This technology, Devin, right, can work on any website, dealer.com, Dealer Inspire, CDK. Have you worked with all the website platforms? So for dealers who are listening saying, hey, Brian, I never thought about that. I never thought that the photos or the car should be the star. I want to implement it. Are we going to have any technical challenges within the automotive retail space?
Yeah, so to your point, Brian, we work with, in the U.S., probably 2,500 dealerships, and we work with every different configuration of photo provider. So if they use a third-party lot processor, they can use our product. We work with every different feed provider, and we work with all the different dealer website providers, absolutely. So we have really no issues in the domestic market whatsoever.
Great. So before we talk about the specific implementation, I'd like to share a story with you. And those of you who've been following my writings know that I've been writing a lot about digital retailing. My brother Glenn and I have been traveling the country consulting with dealers who are looking to create a more modern online retail experience, which means rethinking the VDP SRP design, simplifying the call to action buttons, working with process, developing a marketing brand promise, and then a marketing strategy to basically communicate to customers that there's a new way to buy a car. And we believe that the photos are one of those really important elements, so much that PCG Digital is announcing today our partnership with Spincar. But let me tell you a story why this has evolved and become so clear to me. Recently, the GM announced the new 2020 Corvette Stingray. Devin, have you seen the photos of this rear engine beauty?
I have. It's absolutely beautiful.
And you know what? Here's when I look back, and I have to sometimes step away from retail. I've never bought a car sight unseen. And when I talk about a car, I'm talking about a new car. Back in the days when I was buying some vintage cars to fix up, I would buy them on eBay. But I saw this car and I'm like, wow, I've never owned a Corvette, never have owned a true kind of sports car. And I went online, I looked at the photos and I said, man, I wonder what colors this thing came in. I wonder what packages. And GM did an amazing job. They have an online configurator, which allows you to spin the car in any angle you'd like, change the exterior colors, even change the brake calipers and the wheels, the interior and the styling, whether you wanted a wing on the back trunk or not, whether you wanted. And I was amazed at how effective it was in helping me fall in love with the car. So much that after I configured, I was on social media showing you different colors, I put a deposit down. I ordered the vehicle without even touching the vehicle. And I would say the reason why I did it was the 360 spin with the ability to change colors and configurations. If it worked for me, Devin, why wouldn't our industry realize that their used cars are one of one? Their new cars have many configuration options. Why wouldn't we let a consumer explore the car and fall in love online?
Yeah, so first off, Brian, let me say that I'm very jealous, and I hope to be able to visit you and maybe even test drive it. I hope I'm lucky enough. So no, very, very jealous. What color did you go with, curiously?
It was between the orange or red, and we went with red.
Be careful for speeding tickets. No, but exactly to your point, there's something about the 360 experience, and it's been proven time and time again in traditional retail. There is something about delivering that 360 experience that makes you as the buyer or your consumers feel more in control, and they feel that they're driving their own experience. They're allowed to get to what they're interested in quickly and intuitively. And I think it's also a subconscious feeling that the seller is being more transparent and forthcoming, and that's what causes 360 imaging to drive a significant increase in online conversion rates and engagement.
All right, so let's jump into the implementation. Let's say a dealer is interested in upgrading their VDPs, making the car the star, giving consumers the ability to jump in the interior and look around, or the exterior, or to focus on specific features or aspects of the vehicle. If a dealer signs up, how long does it take for them to be up and running? What do they get? And what does that look like? Because I think some of the listeners today are wondering about throughput and speed.
Yep, absolutely. So we typically provide a prepackaged hardware bundle to a dealership. And the idea, this is a complete pass-through cost for us, but everything's pre-configured, the mobile application is downloaded, and it really allows you to receive that box in typically 2-day shipping, open it up, and you can start shooting immediately. In terms of how long it takes to shoot a vehicle using our process, I would say once you're trained up and you've gotten 5 or 10 vehicles under your belt, it takes about 5 minutes. So you take a lap around the vehicle, you then put the Ricoh Theta camera that we provide, which is that sort of dual pano camera, you put that on the center console, and then you take your close-up shots. And it takes, again, in aggregate about 5 minutes. And the output is you get the fully interactive 360 spin, you get up to 200 still photos, including those that we extract from the exterior and the interior, and you get a live video that helps with, obviously, SEO.
Great. So 5 minutes per car to give consumers the feeling that they're on the lot, they're diving in, looking. What's the resolution? So if I choose to jump in the car and look at the interior, would I be able to detect stains in the cloth or rips in the leather or scratches on the dashboard? How good is this camera?
Yep. Great question, Brian. So resolution can vary depending on the dealer's preference. Typically, it's output at about 1080 by 720. But yeah, that is a big benefit of what we offer. In addition to the 360 spin, we also offer the ability to zoom in, which is another tried and true way to improve e-commerce conversion. If a consumer wants to know, is this pleather? Is it the perforated leather? Is it the high quality premium leather, for example? They can very intuitively go into the inside of the vehicle. If they're on a mobile device, they can rotate their device and using the gyroscope, look over at the seat to their right. And then again, very intuitively, they can pinch to zoom in on that and realize that, okay, this has the perforated leather. Today's consumer is used to being able to get information at their fingertips, and our solution makes it much more intuitive to get to get the information that consumer is looking for.
Great. Now let's talk about the uploading process. It takes 5 minutes to actually film the vehicle. How quickly is that spin, say parcel, if you want to call it, that car able to be merchandised on the dealer's website? What does that look like practically? Is it one by one they get loaded up? Is it batched at the end of the photo session? How does it practically work for most dealers?
Yeah, so normal process would be dealer photographer would go out, they would shoot, the 10 vehicles that have come through recon that day. They would come back in and they would batch upload them. One of the big benefits of our software, and something that a lot of our big enterprise clients realized, is there's really a infallible ROI because we get the vehicles online so much quicker, right? So from the time that you finish shooting and press upload, the vehicles are available on your site within about 15 minutes. And when you consider that your average off-lease vehicle or average pre-owned vehicle sold by a franchise dealer depreciates $54 per day, we're reducing the time that it takes to get that vehicle online from a day or 2 days for feeds to process and get live on the website down to 15 minutes, thereby saving you an average of $54 to $108 in depreciation.
That's awesome. And that's why I'm so excited to partner with Spincar in our consulting practice and in our digital client practice, because dealers are looking to plug profit leaks. They're looking to increase turn rates. They are looking for ways to, allow their website to be more of a selling tool instead of just a lead gen tool. And I have just stepped back and now looking at hundreds of dealer websites and being involved in many digital retailing products, realize we have to rethink our VDPs. We have to really cut down on our call to action buttons. We need to engage consumers when they're on our website instead of popping up lead forms. And surely the car has to be the star, and there has to be a selling price. These are, well, common things in other industries, surely not so much in automotive. That's why as we go out on the road, as Glenn and I are working on OEM consulting projects and dealer group projects, we're going to be strongly recommending that they follow this blueprint that we're developing for better merchandising, better clarity, better calls to action to take the friction out of the online buying process. Devin, in addition to the 360 spin, dealers can have hotspots on vehicles to better describe a feature or a storage space or a trim level. How does that data get into the VDP so a consumer can kind of learn a little bit more about that engine package or that trim package?
Yep, great question, Brian. And yeah, to clarify, right, I think, we're known in the space for providing just the 360 spin product. And that was sort of our our entry level product, the first thing that we introduced to the market. Well, we've developed out a lot of additional capabilities and have an entire sort of suite of products now. To your point, Brian, one thing that we rolled out recently is the ability to embed explainer content directly into the VDP page. We think a big problem in the space is as vehicles are becoming increasingly complex, it's more and more difficult for a consumer to understand what's the difference between the collision avoidance system on BMW versus the adaptive cruise control system on the Mercedes. We've built out the ability to automatically embed this rich OEM explainer content to help educate consumers. And by doing that, we've seen a dramatic reduction in bounce rates.
Well, more importantly, any dealer who was really honest with themselves know that the vehicle descriptions, whether you use Cheese or Cheese Plus or some other content generation tool, it's amazing how monotonous, how boring these descriptions are when somebody in the 360 experience can see these dots and click on it and it pops up some information about the engine or pops up some information about the entertainment system. This is super valuable. And I just go back to my recent configuration with the Corvette. Believe me, I had no idea what was LT1, LT2, LT3 packages, different types of, options that were on this car. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Well, now what happens when that car becomes a used car and someone's seeing the photos and they're like, hey, did they get the upgraded brake and suspension package? Or what is that an L2 or I think it's an LT2 or LT3 interior? Those things are really, I think, important to understand that this is just not for new cars. It's definitely the best tool for used cars as well.
Yeah, Brian, absolutely. I think to your point, the OEM websites can do a pretty good job explaining those unique vehicle features and the packages. Where I think there's another big problem in the space that we're helping address is it's really difficult for a consumer to understand why one 3 Series might be $5,000 more than a seemingly competitive or seemingly very similar 3 Series that's $5,000 less. By introducing this explainer content that talks about how the $5,000 more expensive 3 Series has, the executive seating package and the heads-up display system, we're helping dealers avoid that margin eroding price war that we see happening so commonly in the space.
Great. So let's take a pivot. So if dealers understand that part of the allure of Carvana's ability to sell cars online is because they make the car the star. They have 360 technology. They have a clean VDP with a clear selling price and a single call to action. If dealers who want to create a more interactive online experience, so the 360 technology should be a no-brainer. and they can reach out to me. They can reach out to the team at PCG, obviously reaching out to Devin for a deeper dive into the product. But in addition to the technology, in addition to those hotspots that merchandise the vehicle, I've been writing for years that dealers should not be retargeting everyone who comes to their website. I've encouraged dealers to use Google Tag Manager to tag what consumers are clicking and doing on the website as events, and then building custom audiences of engaged shoppers. Most dealers today are retargeting everyone who goes to their website, regardless of what they do. And over 25% of the traffic that comes to a dealer's website does nothing, meaning it comes to a page and stops, doesn't scroll, doesn't click. What I love about the Spincar marketing package is that based on consumer engagement with the photos, what they looked at on the website, their interest or intent can be surmised, and then we can follow them with dynamic display ads with the exact car they looked at some of the most premium websites in the US. Let's talk a little bit more about that, Devin.
Yeah, Brian, great point you make there around dealers that are often retargeting all visitors the same, even if they just came to go to the parts page or the service page, for example. And we think that's a huge miss in the space, and dealers should really think more seriously about looking at engagement score as a way to prioritize how they're retargeting. But taking a step back, I think many listeners probably don't realize that there's a whole other component to our business. Because we control and host that viewing experience, that 360 viewing experience, it allows us to glean this really granular, unprecedentedly granular data about consumer behavior. So I know not only what vehicles Brian looks at, but I also know what features and photos did he interact with and spend time on. That then allows us to custom tailor a retargeting ad. So if I know Brian spent a lot of time looking at performance features, whereas Devin looked at a lot of safety features, if we view the same vehicle and then leave the site, Brian would get performance-centric creative, I would get safety-centric creative. So that's the sort of core value proposition of our display and our marketing product. But coming back to Brian's point about engagement score, our engine looks at the level of engagement to determine how aggressively to bid. So first we look at how you sort the VDP. Then we look at which VDPs did you view in the sequence of VDPs. And a great example of this is if someone started on an SUV, then they went to a sedan, then they went to a pickup truck, our engine would know that that person is pretty high funnel at that point. The third data point we bring into the engagement score is how long are they on the VDP, the engagement with the photos, and the spin engagement. And again, to Brian's point, we will bid more aggressively. If somebody looked at 5 BMW 5 Series, all 2017s, for example, and they leave your dealer site, we may bid super aggressively on an ESPN leaderboard, take over the entire top quarter of that page, versus if they're much less engaged, we would not bid so aggressively. And all of that happens dynamically using our machine learning engine.
And that's why PCG Digital is so excited about this partnership, because you're providing the technology solution to the teachings that I've been sharing with the automotive industry for years, that dealers need to be more tactical. They should be using their own data to create targeted advertising, relevant messaging. So when the PCG Digital team is working with a dealer now on their social or SEM or their merchandising strategies, we're going to be recommending that Spincar be a part of that, and then also add that retargeting package to it to really enhance the success metrics that we want the industry to embrace, which is measure engagement and then value engagement by pursuing them more aggressively with relevant content. Let's take another pivot. Devin, our consulting side of the business for dealers who are using their own agencies and they're happy with them, but want to create a modern retail experience, we'll call up PCG, and Glenn and I will get involved in looking at their processes, looking at their merchandising, simplifying their design, creating a modern brand promise. For the dealers out there who are on the fence and say, Brian, I want to push in, I want to remove the friction on my website. I want to serve my customers. What is one thing that you haven't said that you believe would push them over the edge to give this 360 technology a try on their website because of the data you see?
Yeah, I would say one point I would like to mention is there was a study that was conducted by Dominion. To your point, dealers, in a potentially flattening new car market are thinking about how do I plug profit holes and how do I increase turn rates. And so specific to turn rates, I would say there was a study that was done by Dominion that looked at the impact of different website products across 4,500 dealerships in the US. And they actually found that our product outperformed all the other website products that they looked at. And then on average for used vehicles, our product proved a lift in used vehicle turn rates by about 36%. Certified was around 22%, and new vehicle turn rates were improved using our product by about 18%.
Those are amazing statistics because that's music to dealers' ears. Hey, Brian, I'm paying for traffic to my website, but how do I get more of those visitors to engage? How do I maximize my return on ad spend? And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we have to look at other industries to see what consumers expect, especially on high ticket items, to give them the comfort level, the feeling that they're in control, that this is the right car for them, especially if they have to drive for a used car. Let's make sure that the trip is going to be worthwhile. And I'm absolutely convinced, as I study more and more of the digital retailing strategies, success is not going to be bolting on a DR tool, leaving all the buttons that you had, leaving those crappy photos just the way they are, and say, I'm not going to give a selling price. It's going to take a complete rethinking, and the OEMs are going to have to be more flexible on this for their future success in digital retailing. Again, that's why PCG Digital and PCG Consulting is so excited about this new partnership and our ability to help dealers become modern retailers with innovative tools that, well, other successful retailers have used. Devin, obviously, people who have a relationship with PCG or follow me know how to reach out to me. For dealers who just want to learn more about Spincar, what's the best website or phone number that they should use to reach out?
Yep, so spincar.com, SPINCAR.com, or they can call 315-766-2221. Again, that's 315-766-2221. If you don't mind, Brian, I'd like to just follow on to the point that you made around digital retailing. And one point, our sort of thesis on this is, we've all looked at digital retailing and we see that conversion rates maybe aren't what we expected. There's a 4% conversion rate here and there's some cart abandonment or drop off. And our philosophy on this is that effective digital merchandising is really predicated on having educational, informative, and transparent merchandising, right? If you're expecting somebody to make a decision without actually seeing and touching the vehicle, you need to provide a super rich, transparent experience online.
Devin, I couldn't agree with you more. You really hit the nail on the head that maybe we're putting the cart before the horse. Before we bolt on tools that show personalized payments and F&I products, let's get them in love with the vehicle that we have and give them that extra motivation to do most of their discovery and buying online. Devin, I also want to remind listeners about the upcoming Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. That's in Palm Beach, November 17th, 18th, and 19th. The website is Automotive Attribution Summit.com. Devin, I'm looking forward to having you speak at the show and engage with consumers, but more importantly, show some of this data, because the conference is all about marketing measurement, increasing conversion, obviously digital retailing. Your product fits perfectly into the conference theme. So I'm just going to ask you, would you make sure you bring some wow data to the conference to give dealers who are on the fence some additional motivation to embrace a modern merchandising strategy.
Absolutely, Brian, and we look forward to sharing that. We're planning to go live and show some live Google Analytics accounts from some of our dealers. We're planning to show, some of the turn rate data that we've done studies with some dealer groups on. I think we will have a very informative and educational presentation for the Automotive Attribution Summit. Look forward to seeing everyone there.
Great. Well, Devin, thank you for your time. I'm super excited about our partnership because I believe over the next few years, dealers are going to need help with transforming their websites from what they were for 15 years, which is lead collecting, outdated boxes, to engagement and platforms that serve consumers' shopping needs. And of course, well, it's an exciting time to be in the car business. You're right in the center of the storm. Every Monday, we release a new podcast. So if you have not been following our series in automotive executives and thought leaders, take a look at the Pash On podcast. It's easy to find in the Apple iTunes store under podcasts. You can go to SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play Store. Everywhere that podcast can be found, you'll see the Pash On podcast available. And we have great content every Monday released. We look forward to seeing everyone this November at the Automotive Attribution and Analytics Summit in Palm Beach. So until next week, have a great day of selling. And remember, the car is the star.